Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a really fascinating paradox sitting at the very heart of one of the world's most influential frontier AI companies. Picture this. You've got a group of absolutely brilliant scientific minds, leading the charge on what is arguably the most transformative tech in human history, building a massive organization, but they actively fundamentally do not want to be startup founders. Literally. Sounds like a total contradiction, right? Well, to really get Anthropic, we have to unpack the unique mindset of the people who actually built it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why start an AI company if you never, ever wanted to be a founder? Usually the whole Silicon Valley narrative is all about the hustle, right? It's about entrepreneurs who are just hungry for disruption, power, wealth, the whole shebang. But Anthropic's origin story? It's completely different. It's honestly more like a reluctant hero narrative. These were researchers sitting inside established labs, looking at the data, and realizing something incredibly profound was happening with AI.
Dario Amodei, the CEO, put it exactly like this. He said, "None of us wanted to found a company. We just felt like it was our duty." I mean, let that sink in for a second. Their journey wasn't born out of some startup opportunism. It was born out of a profound moral obligation. They literally felt like they had zero choice if they wanted to see artificial intelligence developed safely and responsibly. So who exactly are these reluctant founders? That brings us to part one, the unlikely founders, and their jump from physics to frontier AI. So a lot of these founders didn't start out in the whole tech entrepreneur scene. They started in academia, specifically physics. They were driven by pure scientific curiosity. They just wanted to hang out with their friends, dive into insanely complex problems, and figure out the universe. Board meetings and corporate scaling, not on the agenda. But that curiosity put them directly in the path of a technological avalanche. And man, the world changed fast. Back in 2014 and 2015, the broader academic consensus was actually pretty hostile to ambitious AI. One of the founders, who was a journalist at the time, was straight up told they were mad for wanting to write about AI scaling in GPUs. The research community was basically still bruised from the previous AI winter, and taking AI safety seriously was seen as, well, arrogant. But then, 2018 happens. They're at OpenAI working on GPT-2, and boom, they realize these models can generate fake news that reads exactly like real news. Fast forward to 2020 with GPT-3, and the trajectory is just undeniable. The idea of just using a giant blob of compute, it was working. The old consensus officially broke.
Which leads us to part two, the contrarian AI bet, and how they bet against that consensus.
Because the vibe in the mid-2010s was so dismissive of fast AI progress, caring about AI safety actually required this massive, high-conviction, completely contrarian bet against basically all of their peers. Imagine looking at a room full of established scientists telling you something is impossible and deciding to bet your entire career that they're wrong. And this brilliantly illustrates a fascinating philosophical divide. In science, you've got two kinds of conservatism. On one hand, there's risk-averse conservatism. That's when you're terrified of looking arrogant by believing your big, ambitious idea might actually work. That was most of academia. But then you have harm-averse conservatism. This is where you take the potential harms of a successful idea incredibly seriously. The Anthropic founders actually compared this to the early nuclear physicists back in 1939. Folks like Enrico Fermi resisted the idea of the atomic bomb because it just seemed crazy, while others like Szilard and Teller took the idea seriously exactly because they were terrified of the risks if it actually worked. The Anthropic founders, they chose that harm-averse path.
Which brings us to a really vital realization. They saw that what everyone considered the safe, wise, mature academic consensus was actually just herding behavior. It was just everyone repeating what everyone else said, masquerading as maturity. Once they saw through that, they just completely ignored the noise. They doubled down on the idea that simply scaling up neural networks, feeding them way more data and compute, would unlock immense capabilities. And they knew for a fact that if they were right, the world was entirely unprepared.
So, part three, a driven sense of duty and the moral obligation to build. By 2020, they had the receipts. They proved the scaling laws, they saw the sheer power of GPT-3, and they knew powerful AI was coming in hot. So they did something crazy. They left comfortable, established research labs to start a grueling new company entirely from scratch. Why? Because they felt a profound duty to build an institution wired completely differently from your typical tech giant. They wanted to dodge those alienating mistakes the tech industry is famous for. They needed a culture where safety isn't just an afterthought or a PR spin, but a literal product requirement.
To pull this off, they united their team under a high-trust mission, with everyone making an 80% pledge of their time and focus to this specific cause. And crucially, they realized they couldn't just retreat into being a purely theoretical nonprofit. No, they had to be aggressively pragmatic. They had to prove to the world, in the actual market, that you can build highly competitive, cutting-edge AI while keeping it safe. Let's move into part 4, building the AI seatbelts and operationalizing that safety.
Because let's be honest, talking about duty and safety is easy. But how do you actually enforce it in a high-stakes, super fast-moving corporate environment? How do you stop safety from just becoming a buzzword that goes out the window the second pressure mounts? Well, you have to build the AI equivalent of seatbelts. So the crucial point is their implementation of the RSP, or Responsible Scaling Policy. Think of this as Anthropic's constitution. It's a strict, completely legible framework. If an AI model hits a specific capability threshold, it automatically triggers mandatory, escalating safety and security measures. And if those safety measures can't be met, development and deployment halt. Period. Full stop. It completely aligns the incentives of every single engineer and researcher in the building, because everyone knows the rules of the game up front.
And the absolute brilliance of the RSP is captured perfectly by Daniela Amodi. She said, let's make this as boring and normal, like let's make this a finance thing. Because think about it, the goal of AI safety shouldn't be chaotic fire drills every week with people screaming that the sky is falling. If the fire alarm goes off every single day, people are just going to stop listening, right? Instead, safety should be like a routine financial audit. It should be operationalized, totally expected, and fundamentally boring. And honestly, when they pitch this to lawmakers, the lawmakers are often shocked to learn that not every AI company is already operating this way.
This boring operational approach actually serves a highly strategic purpose, and it breaks down into 3 key steps. Step 1, build incredibly capable, industry-leading AI. Step 2, integrate those safety seatbelts right into the core product, so making sure the model is helpful, harmless, and actively refuses to hallucinate or be easily jailbroken. But step 3 is where the magic really happens. Use that market success to force competitors to adapt. See, when huge enterprise customers choose Anthropic because they trust it won't derail their business, it creates this massive market gravity. Competitors look at that success and realize, oh wow, we have to adopt similar safety measures if we want to survive. It deliberately engineers a total race to the top for the entire industry.
Finally, part 5, a vision for the future and their optimistic goal.
Now, hearing all this talk about safety, constitutions, and massive risks, you might assume these founders are just totally pessimistic doomers, but that couldn't be further from the truth. They put these guardrails in place precisely because they are wildly, incredibly optimistic about the positive applications of this technology. They want to safely unleash something truly beautiful. For example, when they look inside the black box of AI, they see what they call the biology of neural networks. Just like evolution created these incredibly complex, beautiful biological structures in nature, the optimization processes of AI are creating this vast, intricate artificial biology. By focusing so heavily on interpretability, which is basically the science of understanding exactly how and why an AI makes a decision, they aren't just making it safe, they're embarking on this beautiful journey of actual scientific discovery.
Let's move to and see how this builds into their ultimate vision for the world. They genuinely believe that by safely steering AI, we can achieve hundreds of AlphaFold-like breakthroughs. We're talking about potentially curing cancers and solving physical diseases that are currently thought to be totally intractable, but it goes deeper. They believe that decoding the neural networks of AI might actually give us the tools to understand the highest level systems of our own human brains, potentially unlocking cures for severe mental illnesses like schizophrenia. So ultimately, they don't view AI as some dystopian tool for authoritarian control. They see it as a powerful mechanism to enhance human freedom, self-determination, and basically solve some of our most fundamental human problems.
So, knowing all of this now, knowing that frontier AI is being built not by eager tech opportunists, but by reluctant, duty-driven scientists who have literally baked seatbelts into their corporate constitution, how will a safety-first AI fundamentally change your future? What seemingly unsolvable problems in your own life, your industry, or our society might actually be fixed when we finally safely pry open this artificial black box? It's definitely something we all need to be thinking about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.